Welcome everyone. Today on the podcast we have with us Aryan Mulchandani. He's founder of
Hi
Manifest Wealth.
guys.
He is also CFA and also done his college from NMIMS. Right. Welcome on the podcast, Aryan.
Hi. Just a slight correction, Jay.
Uh-huh.
I'm not a CFA yet. I
Oh,
have
okay,
just
okay.
cleared two levels of it. I'm
Uh-huh.
left with like one level, so time
Okay.
है थोड़ा.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Sure. Can you give us a brief intro about yourself to the viewers, sir? So
sure,
Aryan.
sure. Sure. So the reason why he's calling me Sir and Aryan is because I told
Yeah.
him for the podcast that call me Aryan. So a brief about me. I started learning finance in my ninth grade. So just around the
Oh,
age
same us.
Jay is right now. So when I was 14, that was I think 7 to 8 years back. Abhi. So I started off with like inspired by I wanted to open my own cafe, and that's how the journey started. So I was like, oh, business karenge. Started looking up articles online, and then I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do in my life. I want to like build wealth. And obviously at that time, I was in a tier 2 tier 3 city, so and wo time pe to I did not know how all of this stock market and anything worked because my father was in logistics. So my thing was, okay, let me take commerce first. That's the easiest way to go about it.
Yeah.
So I went from somebody who was trying to do software engineering. I was great as physics. I was great as sciences. I had a great academic record. So it wasn't ever a question that, okay, science, like commerce was my default thing. So when I came into 10th grade, I just told, like, once I crossed 10th, I told my teachers, I told my parents that I want to take commerce and that's what I want to do. And they were like, okay, fine. Like parents were very supportive. Teachers were surprised, but parents were supportive. Like apna typical. This is a long time back where the science field was still like the great
Emerging.
better. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
still like engineer bano IIT karo. That was
Uh,
the norm there. Aajkal to we have a lot of startup and all of that. People are okay with it. Then I
Correct.
came to 11th and 12th, tab thoda sikha, and that's how I basically proceeded towards learning finance. Then I ended up at NMIMS, then I ended up learning BSc. I had some very smart peers, unse sikha, and then I realized, okay, I need to start investing, I need to start growing. And then it was 10 hours workdays every day. I joined a firm. I learned private equity. I was working with private equity and investment banking clients, and I was like, okay, this is interesting work, but I still like stocks. So let me start something in that field. And since I had been investing since a long time, since I got to know the field from a long time, and I always liked, adding data to the way I invested. So I was like, yeah, something is new. And this, if I crack it, it can be a big thing. So that's when I left my job and I started Manifest Wealth as a way to sort of get clients, make a base right now, while I still work around the whole registration process that exists today. Because you cannot give advice as a RK, right? You need to get SEBI registrations done. So in that process, जब तक वो बन रहा है, Manifest Wealth is just a way to acquire clients, just to get my name out, just to connect with people like you and other, people in the field. It's been a great journey so far. So like that's how the entire thing has planned out. I
wow,
talked a lot, I
fantastic.
guess. So yeah.
Can you give us about more information about how was your college life like, sir? Like, what did all things did you learn there in MMIS?
So yeah, I too enjoyed my college life. I think a lot of people they don't like their college, right? They're like, oh, it's a lot of bookish knowledge, it's not really helpful. But I have a very different take on it, right? I think partially because one, my degree was very interesting to me. So I did BSc finance. So it's not BCom, BAF or anything like that. It was a very good degree with a lot of MBA finance subjects. So we were learning
Uh-huh.
financial modeling in our second year. We were learning valuations, and we had some of the best professors, right? And then the kind of class I had, everybody was like somebody smart, everybody was knowledgeable. We had like fun times. Not only did we study nice stuff, there were no textbooks, there were no notes. It was all practical. Like we had exams on Excel, we were analyzing
Wow.
companies. So and malab, itna like first year was a little strict, little school type, because that's the initial stage, everybody's opening up. Second years was damn fun. Like we used to like sit around the class and we used to tell stock analysis kar rahe hain. Like literally one of the classes was just us figuring it out how to, like, we had this thing where one group was selling, one group was buying a company, and we were negotiating after valuations. So these were the kind of
Wow.
experiences I had. So I mean that was so fun. And this was obviously pre-COVID times, so everybody was all like not used to the online classes. Sadly, my final year was online. So, I mean, that was a little sad part, but I think it was again a good thing because jab, when you're online, we ended up pursuing other things in life. So time khul gaya because I used to live about 1 hour away from college. So 2 hours saved in a day was then
Yeah.
used to like learn and learn other stuff. So I did a lot of courses and all to move. And the best part about NMIMS that I would say is that the teachers were so open-minded and they were also so much into learning that I remember I learned Python and then I was asking my professor who used to teach business analytics, yeah, so ye aise kaise karo? And he was a very smart man. And I'm still in touch with a couple of them. In fact, today is Teachers' Day, so I wished a couple of them, and then they're asking me what are you up to, and I'm telling them, sir, this is how it is, and they're like, all the best. See, I mean, I personally enjoyed it. I met some of the best people there. I have some of my best friends from there. They're all working in good jobs. Like, Abhi, if I need help in anything in my life, right, there I know somebody from my class who's working on that. So it's
Uh,
very interesting. Like, Abhi, if I want somebody, like if I have a question in debt, I ask them. If I have a question in equity research, I know them. And all of them are working in like damn fine institutes. And it also helps because I have that backup now in my head that, okay, if my firm does not work out, at least have someone to refer me. I at least
mm,
have somebody to, vouch for me because I have
yeah.
worked with them before.
Yeah.
So I think it was a damn nice choice. And I personally think that, unlike the normal concept at college is not useful. I think if you have a good college, it makes a big difference. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So NMIMS helped you to build a great network and friends, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say this that, see, whatever you are, I mean, see, kabhi bhi, what I believe and what my parents have always told me is that, no matter where you come from, no matter how rich you are, no matter how privileged you are, no matter how smart you are, at the end of the day, you're an amalgamation of all the people you have met in your life, right?
Yeah.
And all the people you learn from,
Yeah.
right? So, like, whether it was my 9th and 10th grade teachers, whether it was my 11th and 12th professors, teachers, whether it was my college professors, whether it were my friends in college, all of them have sort of, made me what I am today, right? When you see today, the way I analyze talks, the way I write, it's not कि मेरे को कहीं से like I just learned it out of the blue, right? It's a mix of all the people I've spent time with. So I'm very grateful for them. So it's not just animals. I think it's my entire life, all the people. And that's how I'll keep it, to be honest.
Fantastic. Fantastic, sir. Fantastic, Aryan. Then tell us more about the manifest wealth, starting manifest wealth after passing out of college.
So
What
I
was the
started it
inspiration
after
like?
se Yeah, so I basically started it after I quit my job. Like I was in my notice period, and that's when I started it.
Oh,
So
okay.
that about 7 months later, like, but you're still on track because I only worked in my firm for like about 7 to 8 months. That's when I quit.
Oh,
So quite an early thing it was a risk to be honest, leaving that early, but I think it's paying off. So yeah, I mean, starting off with was very natural. I started off with just putting technical analysis on Nifty and Back Nifty because I used to trade back then. I still have that ability to trade, but I kind of don't have the time anymore to trade, and I have sort of shifted my philosophy since then. Like I always was more towards the fundamentals and quant fundamental side, to be honest. But
yeah.
like I mean, सीखने के लिए सब सीखना चाहिए. I believe that you should learn everything.
Yeah.
So I did learn trading and I was like adequately good at it. So I continued that for 4 5 weeks. No, it's not sorry, not 4 5 weeks, but 3 months. But then I was like, this is something very uh,
Time
repetitive
consuming.
one. Time consuming is nice. I was like half an hour on Saturday, I could make it after I
Okay.
got used to it. Because I was anyways tracking the markets. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, weekend pe baith ke banana hai. It doesn't take that long. But the thing is, one, I had to sit every Saturday and make it.
Yeah.
That was the biggest problem. So if I wanted to go out on Saturday or if I was sick on Saturday, it became very tough. Like I'll tell you, the past ever since I've started, I've not missed 1 week. So and I have gotten sick twice in that.
Yeah.
So I am literally there have been times where I was on a trip with my friends and I was typing out the newsletter. I was times I was sick. 102 degree का बुखार चल रहा है. People are telling me to rest. I'm typing a newsletter. So I mean that's how it was back then. So I was like, this is not working. I shifted to financial literacy, where I was talking about what I know. But then there was certain problems with it, like the audience I was targeting, the base education level I assumed, and all of that. So it wasn't working too well. And then when I shifted to the current form, which is data-driven insights, those articles were doing very well, where I was combining what I know and the data and basically my niche, my field. So कैसे ना कि when you love something, people love it automatically. I don't know how that works, but it works. So I think that's how I arrived at the current stage. So over the 8 months, I've learned a lot, to be honest, and I think वो pivot करते जाना चाहिए. So one of the things I've learned is to be very adaptable to what your audience wants. Right?
Mm.
I mean, you start off with something like when I started it in like December somewhere last year, I did not imagine it to grow at what it is today. I was like, ठीक है करते रहेंगे technical analysis होता रहेगा. But today what I'm doing is like I did not imagine it. Like I was still doing it like last year, but things evolve, you adapt. That's how it goes. It's an adaptation journey, to be honest.
Wow, fantastic. I really like the adaptation lesson, right? You have to pivot a lot until you find the product market fit, right?
Uh, exactly. I mean, so you told product market fit. I actually had a discussion with another founder. I was like, bro, this is content creation. So I coined a term called topic market fit because uh, some topics resonate well. Some like topic market fit बोलो, product मत बोलो, because topic बदलता रहता है. Some topic
Hmm.
like you need like a perfect overlap to ensure it does well. Right?
Correct.
Even like with data-driven insights, when I do data-driven insights on say a sector, that does much better than say data-driven insights on something like real estate, which is on different asset class. Because
Yeah.
people are not that interested in REIT. But if I tell something like, oh, tire industry का mean reversion हो रहा है, people are more interested in that. So then that's like the holy Venn diagram where the crossover is highest. So where it works. So वो भी एक रहता है कि now product तो बना दिया data driven insights, but even there it's like that topic overlap should come. So I think वैसा है.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh, you have also shared a pic about your the website performance, right, sir? I think it was a tweet by
Yeah.
Tanmay Makode, right? How did you build
Yeah.
infrastructure around your newsletter, right? You did you learn the web development or something like that to kind of publish your
So
own website?
So, bro, I'll tell you what happened. Okay. So back when I was a kid, like when I was like 11 or 12, I used to cook. I still cook, but I used to cook. I used to bake. I used to make brownies and stuff because I had a breathing problem when I was a kid. So I did not play sports. So I was at home. And घर पे हो, तो the best thing you can do is learn cooking. And
Yeah,
the way my family is, we are people who believe that everybody should know how to cook. Like my dad
hmm,
knows how to cook. Like we cook. Like as there are some times on Sundays that I'm cooking out. So I'm like,
hmm,
ना blog food की website बनाता हूँ. So I just at 12 years of age, I had a computer. I was like, चलो blog बनाते हैं. So I made a WordPress
wow,
site back then. Then when I was in high school, I had the idea of writing. So I made a writing wala blog at that time, like in 11th and
wow,
12th. And obviously thoda like because I told you right in like 9th and 10th I had this affinity towards sciences and software engineering, so
yeah,
that's why I learned Python even though I was in commerce and all of that because वो है interest in tech.
yeah,
So now ऐसा web development तो नहीं सीखा because I think web development is complex and I believe that I'm good at finance. I'll hire
yeah,
somebody who's good at web development because
yeah,
you can't do as good as somebody who does it professionally.
hmm,
But for now, I was like, because we are in this generation of no code, right? Why not just use no code platforms? And because I was
wow,
familiar with WordPress, I just made the website around WordPress.
yeah,
So obviously, abhi ekdam naya aaya, so I was like, okay, this has changed. So I spent like 2 or 3 days learning and all. And I believe in exploring and learning. So ऐसा course
yeah,
course
same
नहीं
here.
किया. Got the WordPress thing. I was like, everything one एक एक करके देखा. And whatever doubts Google करो. That's how I
Correct.
learned everything in my life whenever
Yeah,
like so I am just like, okay, WordPress. I'm like, okay, how do I build a newsletter in WordPress? Google क्या? Read like 4 5 blog posts. I was like, okay, ऐसे बनता है. Picked a plugin, डाला. Then okay, this is how you make it. This is so पूरा करते गए. And then color palette यहाँ से निकाला, ये किया वो. Just randomly over WordPress is what I mean. I used to be on Substack before, to be honest, when
yeah,
I started my newsletter.
mm-hmm.
But and while that infra is very easy to work on, the problem is you don't have much control over it, right?
Hmm.
So if I want to change the way it looks, I want to change the landing page, I want to change बाद में कुछ add करना है because I
Yeah,
actually added something in between, which did
yeah,
not work out. But
yeah,
but it's very nice to have your own website. I think, and I think
correct.
if you're actually serious about like building a newsletter, building a brand, website is a very important thing to build. Like if you're just doing like a personal newsletter, then Substack is great. But if you're going with like a professional, like if you want to expand it to a professional identity, then having your own website is like having your own domain, having your own website serves as a much better, base of operations, as you would say.
Yeah, correct.
So it's WordPress and hosting from a hosting website.
Uh, you mentioned, right? You just went on WordPress and explored every field that was present, right?
Yeah.
I did the same thing while learning Bubble.io,
Oh,
where the show my website
yeah,
is hosted,
yeah,
right? It's built on no code, complete no code, right?
yeah.
I also just went over there, just figured things out, bunch of Googling, a bunch of watching YouTube videos on how can we just change
Hmm.
the color of this element, add some plugins, etc., etc. Right. I think that
Yeah,
helps a
I mean,
lot,
bro,
right?
curiosity.
It improves your
Yeah, yeah,
understanding.
yeah. Exactly. I mean, if you're curious, then you can learn anything. That's how it
Correct.
is, in my opinion. It's all
Yeah.
about curiosity.
Yeah. That's how I learned
Let's
about
get into
coding.
it.
That's how I learned about finance, right? Out of all
Oh,
curiosity. Yeah.
damn great, man. Damn great. You remind me of me when I was 14, 15. Like, it was saved. I was like, "Meko sab seekhna hai." But that time, Twitter was not that big. So I had to stick with like regular stuff. But now I think you're doing great, man. Like, the fact that you have your own podcast, you have people on Twitter who like you have done internships at, I think, 14, 15. I've never done an internship in my life. Like, I don't have internships in my resume at all. So I mean, it's pretty great that you're doing it. You're well ahead of your peers, and I think the best part is, I don't think you're doing it from a resume perspective. I think you're just doing it from curiosity
Correct.
perspective, right? I see a
Yeah.
lot of people, especially like I have known people who have come to me to take help on their resumes or juniors and school friends and all that. And the first thing I tell them is, you know, uh, when you dedicate yourself to building a resume, you kind of limit yourself and you kind of do things you may not even like. So
Correct.
then you get into this cycle of unhappiness that is
Mm.
there. But if you're just doing what you like, you might just explore automatically and अपने आप CV बन जाता.
Correct.
And then when you talk in an interview, दिखता है. Like one of the things that helped me with my interview was they could see that I was passionate about what I was doing. So that helped a lot. I think that is definitely something that you're doing perfectly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I do everything about like because I love learning about the subject and kind of out of curiosity, as you mentioned.
It's
Tell
great.
us more about your CFA journey, sir. You cleared 2 rounds of CFA, right? What is CFA for
Yeah,
in
I
the first
mean,
place? Can you explain for the viewers?
sure. So the thing is, CFA or Chartered Financial Analyst is a professional course. So it's
Yeah.
similar to courses like CA, ACCA, CIMA, etc. So basically, in finance and in accounting, you have professional courses designed for each branch of finance, right? So like how you have CIMA or a Chartered Institute of Management Accounting, which is all about learning how to uh, you know basically see if something is working well or not and make decisions. It's
Yeah.
about budgeting. There's a lot of budgeting involved. I'm not an expert in it, but that's a friend of mine has done it. So that. Then there's cost accounting का there is a certification. Then you obviously have CAs who are like the backbone of our financial system, to be honest, and they're great at everything. Like I'm very surprised whenever I meet a CA, they're great at everything. So I mean, that's the great respect for that profession. And CFA, where it comes with, is CFA is all about investment and finance. It's all about asset allocation. So if you are planning a career in investment banking, private equity, venture, like not as much in venture capital, but in especially in like anything where you're dealing with asset classes, you're dealing with asset allocation. CFA is a very good education
Yeah.
for it. And the best part is that it counts like a master's degree, to be honest. So it's similar to doing like an MSc in finance, but it's
Uh-huh.
very, very deep.
Yeah.
And the best part about it is that one way to look at it is, yeah, of course, it adds to your job market value and all of that. But otherwise, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful course that teaches you how to analyze. The three levels are structured in a way where you learn basics of finance first, then you learn valuations, and then you learn asset allocation, portfolio management, and wealth management.
Yeah.
That's how the three levels are. Insanely tough. Like I think by far toughest exams that I've faced,
Uh-huh.
right? Takes definitely a lot of effort, definitely a lot of mind, and you cannot rote learn. So unlike like like I remember this growing up, giving exams was easy. because I used to pay attention in class. Yaad tha, go spit it out in the exam, you pass. But
Uh,
CFA is not like that. Like after, like especially after level one, it's all about, they will give you case studies and all of that and tests your mind.
yeah.
So I mean, it's a fairly interesting degree, and I think, if somebody wants to learn finance, especially going through just the books, it's a beautiful syllabus. And
Uh,
the beauty of it is that it's not a big, you know, big course. It's like 5 or 6 books per level. And I think about 1,800 pages, 300 hours of studying. So 900 hours totally.
uh,
Uh, so, I mean, not that much of studies, but what we learn is very, very relevant.
uh,
So, yeah, but it's tough, but the cohort is worth joining. I think like if you see CFAs out here, like, I mean, you would know them on Twitter. They know
yeah.
what they're talking about. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's like one thing, and it's a respected community. I think I found it very tough so far, honestly. Like, not as in tough that I can't do it, but tough as in challenging, and it's very fun.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
good to feel challenged. I think, if it's all about, challenging yourself higher and higher. That's how you grow. So,
Correct.
you should keep challenging yourself. So I think CFA is that challenge for me, that okay, this is something that takes effort from my end to do. It
Yeah.
takes, a lot of things, and it's great learning. I think everything I learn has been implemented somewhere. So
Uh, so it basically tests under test your understanding of a particular topic rather than more of a memorization kind of a thing, right?
definitely, and it's goes one step further.
Mm.
As you grow through the levels,
Yeah.
uh, it also tries of tests how you are thinking. So it's not only how
Mm.
you understand the concept, but how you're
Mm.
applying that concept also comes into the picture once you get into level three. So the reason why I think a lot of people find it especially tough is that not only are your concepts becoming more complex, but also the way they're being tested, it's becoming more complex. With level
Uh,
one is just multiple choice. Level two, there are case studies. Level three, there's a written part to CFA.
Subjective answers. Yeah.
Yeah, subjective answers. So it's not really subjective, I would
Oh.
say. Like, it's not like it is. There is subjectivity to it,
Yeah.
but there are written answers. So you need to be able to describe your thought process well. You need to be able
Mm.
to understand ki, like, am I being concise? There's a way to write it, is what
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah.
So I mean, between the three, I would say, like, it also tests that ability, and that's, I think, very important. So between that and the fact that the topics become increasingly complex, it's definitely a tough thing to do. And this is where, again, I love the fact that I went to NMIMS, because the course covered a lot of these concepts. So that made the journey just a bit easier.
Uh, Fantastic. All the best for the next CFA
Thank
third
you.
level, sir.
Thank you.
My next question is, what is your investment research process look like, sir? How do you go about finding a particular stock and then researching about it, then kind of curating your thoughts in brief in articles, right?
Yeah. So I don't write about stocks particularly right now because I'm not registered. So
Mhm.
whatever I write about is primarily just throwing off like random processes that I've understood. So when you see me on Multiply or when you see me on Twitter, it's mostly just me sharing my thoughts on stocks. I don't write that on Manifest Wealth right now. Manifest Wealth is a little different. There, the ideation process is different. But with investing, what I personally believe in is I am one of those people who believes that it's better to combine the growth and value concept. So with growth as reasonable price or GARP philosophy, that's what I think I resonate the most with. Like, and this is over the years, jitna bhi sikha hai and all of that. I think what works for me is, one, I like buying undervalued securities, yes, but at the same time, I believe that one is you buy a stock which is not growing, which is not going anywhere, but it's a value buy. But what I rather believe is that it should be a growing stock, it should be undervalued, and it should have something coming up, what I call as value triggers, something that's
Uh-huh.
coming up in the next 6 to 12 months that would be what the market would like about it.
Okay,
So I'll give you
got
an
it.
example for it.
Like for
Back
example,
in
a capex.
February, Capex could be one,
Yeah,
but what more likely is like, so I'll give you an example of this. Like in
yeah,
February, right?
yeah.
This February, uh, oil prices were rising, right? And we
Correct.
had seen carbon black prices rising all throughout.
Yeah,
So
ECBM.
I was like, oil prices are going up, and one of the things is that when any commodity goes up, right? Eventually, there is mean reversion to it, right? Nothing goes up too quickly. And one of the things with every commodity is that up manufacturers of custom commodities. So whenever you manufacture a commodity, right,
Yeah,
it's not like you can produce one additional unit. You're gonna increase in batch sizes, Amisha. Like if you see a factory also, when you do a capex, you're gonna add certain tons of capacity, and then that production sort of takes over. So
correct.
now we were at so and if you see any commodity, like in February, I had tweeted about this. I expect steel prices to go down. I was
Yeah,
expecting commodity prices to go down, and I follow the whole cycle system that is there: the stocks, bonds, commodity cycle, stage one, stage two,
yeah, yeah,
4, 5, 6. I've posted about that. I think I've so I was like, okay, commodity prices will go down in couple of months, right? And I was like, okay, oil prices will go down in a couple of months. Geopolitical tension, all of that, it should probably go down in a couple of months was my intention, right? Now, I could be wrong, obviously, but that was the forecast. Now, if commodity prices go down, that would mean ideally all these derivatives of oil would go down. And tires was one of the things where auto demand was going up and tires can at replacement demand pe chalte hain.
huh,
So I was like, if autos are going up right now and people are traveling and people are getting back on roads again, we will see people replacing tires more often. We have
yeah,
seen auto growth, so there is tire car sales.
yeah, like a
So
proxy play on
proxy
auto.
play on auto. And at the same time, I was like, right now nobody's caring about them because the margins are extremely low because the raw material price has been rising. Now oil prices have risen, so oil be jayega. But then I was like, I'm expecting oil prices to go down, which means margins should ideally come back. And what was happening in tires was the volume growth was there. So if you see the revenue was going up, it was only the profit that wasn't growing because of the material cost. Because it had shoot up, like it was crazy. Like it was 100% growth in 2 years or something.
Yeah,
So now like when the margins come back in like couple of months, if you played that out in like Excel for like the next 4 quarters, you model it out, discount it. You're like, okay, this is like
decent.
paisa aa sakta hai,
Uh,
right? So not only was it undervalued based on that
correct.
projection,
Yeah.
but it was also that nobody right now is looking at it, or at least like the general public is not talking about it. Like Twitter पे कोई बात नहीं कर रहा था उसके बाद. But I was like 6 महीने बाद लोग बात करेंगे. So that was my value trigger in that sense. The mean reversion of the raw
Wow.
material prices. So that's the value trigger. The growth is the revenue growth that was happening, and the
Yeah.
value by was the DCF model evaluation.
Yeah.
And that was a extremely like good play because I think it generated 28% returns.
Wow.
So in like the past 4 months, so that was good. And the reason like so I mean that's how I have started playing around. So there's another stock like Dawat hai, LT Foods. That also is on
Yeah.
a product expansion play. Similar idea कि product expansion होगा when the product starts selling well, it will improve the EBITDA margin. Margins improve होते हैं तो people also try to like re-rate the stock. So वो सब होता है. So I mean re-rating and everything else is I think a byproduct. But you find this, so it's because market is not only about businesses. I feel it's also about the sentiment, please.
Hmm.
तो यू
Correct.
आई मीन एक तरह है कि आप वैल्यू देखो, आप बिजनेस साइड ऑफ थिंग्स देखो, एंड एक
Yeah.
होता है लाइक एट द सेम टाइम यू आल्सो लुक एट कि व्हाट द मार्केट विल लुक एट इन लाइक 6 months. You
Yeah.
might have a
Correct.
very undervalued business, but if the market never discovers it, you'll be
Yeah.
holding that for a long time, and then your CAGR would reduce, right?
Correct.
Even if you have an undervalued stock, 10 साल में if it doubles, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
If it
Correct.
doubles in like 5 years or 3 years, that's when you actually have beaten the market returns.
Yeah. That's why you
So
generate
that's
alpha.
the yeah. So that's the philosophy there.
Wow. How? What is your idea generation process look like? So how do you generate ideas?
For content,
No, no, for the stocks.
for
And
stocks.
I also for the content. That is pretty interesting.
Okay. For stocks, I think it's all about like just keeping it up. Like, what I look at is I look at 6 महीने बाद क्या होने वाला है.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I see what's happening right now. I see
Yeah.
what the trends are right now. I see what people are looking at. I see the cycle where we are at, what's going on to go up next. Right now with rate hikes, I think maybe like 1 or 2 years, we might see easing again. What time pay bonds will do well. That's
Correct.
the logic that I have. So I'm started to accumulate bonds, not an advice, obviously, but I mean
Yeah.
that's my way of thinking. So I'm thinking 6 months, 12 months into the future, right? Typical kya ho sakta hai, and then think backwards.
Hmm.
So
Mean reversion.
not really mean reversion, but yeah, sorts of.
Yeah.
So I mean, 6-12 महीने का आगे देख के, then I work backwards, seeing कि okay, 6-12 months, this is going to be the scenario. What's
Yeah.
today that is not being concentrated on, and then
Hmm.
work on that. So not really like very long term, but sometimes then, and other times it's like I look at Twitter or Multiply, you get some ideas from other people. Then you're obviously looking at mean reversion plays, like kiska EBITDA margin is depressed right now is another word. Like screeners you can run. So I run screeners on ticker tape. I run screeners using databases that I have access to.
Yeah.
So वो time पे like if I have some like I get like Nifty 500 का data quarterly data निकाला. Now EBITDA margins are lower for this quarter than the past 5-6 quarters. I'll try to figure out what's the reason for that, and then sort of build a play around it. And now, obviously, once you have like data, एक बार data आ जाता है, तो then you can just
Play
play
around with.
around with it. Yeah. So I mean, for right now, like recently I minted out data for the past 20 quarters. I asked a friend to pull out that data for me. So 20 quarters of EBITDA margins I've taken out. I'm trying to build a mean reversion strategy on that if it works or
Ah.
not. So that's how I screen stock. So screening is something I think you should always try different ways, because you never know kahan se you will find a gem, right? So if I stick to my typical 20 ROE plus wala screen, I would have never found LT foods. But now it's something that I think is one of my best plays. So
Yeah.
I think it's all about keeping your eyes open and then figuring out what works, what doesn't work. So कभी mean reversion होता है, कभी अगले 12 महीने में यहाँ पे demand आने वाली है, and sometimes it's just just something I've read and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So, and plus, since I am not like I don't have to stick to a strategy as such. Like I can stick to the main theme of it all, but I don't have to like declare कि yeah, this is how I'm screening stocks right now, because I'm not managing anybody's money. It's just my money. So I think that freedom also helps, because otherwise you have to like stick to a particular strategy which fund managers have to do. So
Yeah.
वहाँ पे that's the advantage. For content, it's just that I talk to a lot of friends, and then whenever they have a question, I'm like, "चलो ठीक है, topic मिल गया ये time का," and then I just take that, or I just see what people are discussing on like Twitter or anywhere, or I just get random ideas in Shah or something. Like I
Oh,
think at this
that's true.
point,
I also get ideas in shorts, feature ideas.
yeah, yeah. I mean, at this point, I am literally like thinking about finance 12 hours a day or something. So कहीं ना कहीं से तो idea आ ही जाता है. It's like some days I'm like, okay, does this like, and as I said, right, curiosity also comes. Sometimes it's just to satisfy my curiosity. Like, do REITs provide uncorrelated returns was my thing. Like, does it make sense? And then I was like, okay, I'm doing the research anyways, might as well write about it.
Yeah.
But then writing about it is a little tough, because whenever you do like data analytics on something, right, it's you have to like really ensure that you're doing it rightly, because it's very easy to go wrong. Like it's very easy to do correlation on the wrong things. Uh, because there are a lot of these क्या होता है ना कि correlation regression तो कई लोगों को आता है, but then there are many in regression there are like about 5 to 6 parameters, that I know 5 to 6 parameters, but 5 to 6 limitations that regression has where you cannot use it, and there are conditions that you have to fulfill with the data before you can use a regression, which not many people really look into, because that's not really taught in a lot of places. So wo dhyan rakhna is very important. So when I'm posting about it, then I need to go through that, which is why it takes a lot of time. So that's, I think that that's the toughest part, to be honest, ensuring that the data is right, and the integrity of data is right, and it's something that you can actually run that analysis on. Because the worst thing that can happen is you have an idea for the week, get the data, and then that data is something where you cannot draw conclusion from, right? Because wo kar hi nahi sakte. Like data is serially correlated, or it's not linear. फिर वो बनाना पड़ता है, and there are ways to make it linear. And the thing is, the more complex you go into this, the tougher it is to also like make it
Articulated.
something, making it into an article, right? Then it becomes a research paper, which is another ball game altogether. So वहाँ पे issues happen. That's, I think that's one thing to look for.
Wow. Fantastic. This was a great half an hour learning session, sir. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Sorry,
Thanks
Aryan.
for
Thanks for
calling me,
coming on the
man.
podcast.
Thanks for calling me, man. Thanks for calling me.
Great.